Your retirement dreams are out there. We can help you live them. This is Retire with Freedom with Birmingham's premier retirement planners, Tad and Tony Hill.
Hey everybody, welcome to Retire with Freedom. These are your co-hosts, Tad and Tony Hill. I'm Tad.
And I'm Tony.
Tony is Tony.
Yep.
She's her and I'm me. So we are your co-hosts for Retire with Freedom. We're also married and have been for 33 years.
Well, this year will be
34.
Yep.
But it's not yet.
Yeah.
Because that's
yet.
July the 8th.
That's right.
Yeah.
Good memory there.
Well, all right. And then Tony always says that she gets credit for time served, which is the 4 years that we dated before we got married. So in your mind,
it'll be 38.
You've put in almost 40 years. Wow. All right. So we got a great show for you guys today. We're going to talk about hindsight is 2020. Like when you look back and you go, I could have done this, I should have done that. We're going to talk about some of those things. We're going to get into some of the laws and rules that have changed, that the new tax law, the Secure Act 2.0, some of the changes that were made there. There's a lot of stuff in there that I think will be helpful and educational for you, our listener. We'll talk about something personal, which is one of my favorite segments, just not retirement planning, just something
personal.
Something personal. All right, so let's jump into the hindsight's 2020, Tony.
Yeah.
It's easy in retrospect to know what we should have done.
Right. I mean, of course, we would have done things differently had we, like if I'd only known this, but I mean, that's kind of a useless.
You probably wouldn't have invested 40 years. You'd probably been I got to find somebody else.
Well, I mean, that's kind of a useless statement because you can't know what you didn't know. You can't go back in time and know that. So, but since you can't do that, we can't see the future. We don't, there's no point in beating ourselves up over that. But let's talk about some of the situations where some folks wish they had done something different had they known better. So talk about some of those. I mean,
well, one couple comes to mind, and this is way back in 2008, the financial crisis. Mm-hmm. The market crashed. We were literally wondering if we were going to end up living in caves. I mean, if you really put yourself back in that position, it was a pretty scary time. But a lot of people, and one couple that comes to my mind, took all their money, put it in cash, and they
just never.
Yeah. They're like, well, we're going to wait until things are better, mm-hmm. or we're going to wait until somebody else is in the White House, mm-hmm. And so the challenge is you have to. The problem is that without a plan, Tony, if we don't have a plan and we know what the plan is and we understand how it's designed to work and we're going to follow it, then it's very easy to make decisions in a silo.
Yeah, and
I'm not going to say in a vacuum. It's like I'm just looking at this one kind of piece of things, and really we have to build a plan that takes everything into account, and we know what we're doing. So the reason that people are terrified of the stock market, if they are, mm-hmm. in our experience, I think you would agree with this, is because they're worried they're going to lose money that they might need to live on.
Right, and that's their only weapon they've got there is just the stock market.
Right, and so they think, well, I've got the stock market and I've got cash.
Yeah, I'm either in or out.
I'm in or out, mm-hmm. and I don't like all that risk. I don't like watching the money go down.
Right.
So this is one of the things that we go in depth in the retirement course that we teach, and there's one at the Vestavia Library, one at the Hoover Library, and then one at Jeff State right here by our office. We typically do one a month, maybe one every 6 weeks. But for you, our listener, I can't think of a better way for you to have all of the things that you need to be thinking about before you retire, or even if you're already retired, right. The things that we need to be thinking about. I can't think of a better way for someone to explain all that to you than we do in our course that we do. And it's 2.5 hours. It's a deep dive into how do we do income planning? How do we replace your paycheck when you stop working? How do we allocate your investments so that we've protected all of the money that we're going to need to pay the bills, but then that gives us the confidence to be able to invest for growth for the other. We go through tax planning, healthcare planning, legacy planning. So I really encourage you, for yourself and your family, to sign up for our next course and to come have us explain all this stuff to you, because we spend 2.5 hours in a deep dive. So the way you do that is you can go to our website. You can call or text our number, our office number. That number is 205-988-0006, 205-988-0006, 205-988-0006. Get signed up for our next course. Our website is, all you got to do is it's askfreedomfinancial.com, or you can Google Tad and Tony Hill.
Yeah.
Now, there is another Freedom Financial that gets confused with us, and they're like a debt rehabilitation
it has
company.
nothing to do with
so
us. Yeah.
just make sure it's Freedom Financial Retirement Planning, and there's Tad and Tony Hill. So, but I would really encourage you to get signed up for that next course.
And the other thing too is having a plan keeps people from making emotional decisions. Either way, panic or greed.
Right.
They get really greedy. I mean, there's some people that come to mind that we've met with that had a lot of crypto, and they hung on to it too long. I mean, just being all in, like not really having a very well thought out, well diversified plan, and just having a lot of just banking on something like that. I mean, just talking about banking. I mean, all the things that we're doing, we should really have a real intelligent design behind planning.
Yeah.
I mean something that no matter which way the wind blows, we know that we've got things covered. We're going to be glad we have this. We'll be glad we protected that. We're glad we were invested in this so that we've got some growth potential. I mean, there just needs to be a lot of things going at the same time.
It's building the fiscal house, and we talk about this in depth in the course that we do. Again, Hoover Library, Vestavia Library, Jeff State near our and for those of you near our office in Inverness, and for those of you who don't live in Birmingham, because we've got the radio shows now all over the state.
Yeah.
So we also have mechanisms that you can get the course information without physically being there. Although, Tony, a lot of people drive down from Huntsville regularly, and come over from Montgomery and Tuscaloosa,
We've had people come and
Nashville,
spend the night.
yeah. So I think it's time well spent. I think it's worth doing that,
right?
Because I do think live in physically being there is better than seeing the online version. But we did record it during the pandemic.
We
did. So that people could do it that way.
And so you can that's the thing. The reason it's better live is because Tad, I mean, for people that don't, every time we do a class, it turns out a little different because there are the questions that get asked or things that come up. And so just having a static recording, it's better than nothing.
Right.
A video is better than nothing. But being there live, there's nothing.
Well, plus I hate seeing myself on video. So
me too. But anyway.
Wait, you hate seeing me on video?
No, I hate seeing me on video.
Oh, all right. I'm glad you clarified
that. But anyway, let's talk about some other things about hindsight.
Well, there's one point I wanted to make. Because you used the word diversification earlier, which I just want to clarify for people, because every broker, every banker, every advisor talks about diversification. So when we talk about diversification, we're not talking about, hey, we need to diversify among your stocks and your bonds. Anybody's going to do that. Mm-hmm. That is investing 101. Mm-hmm. So of course we're going to diversify your stock and bond portfolios. What we're talking about is diversifying the different solutions that we bring to the table to add to the puzzle so that your retirement plan is put together in a way that's going to work as effectively as possible. And we talk about a concept that we talk about this in the course. I talk about it in the book that I wrote, which, by the way, you can go to our website or go to Amazon and get a copy of the book. But we talk about a concept called the fiscal house, which is where we're laying down the foundation, this is how we're going to pay the bills. And typically we are doing that with fixed instruments that aren't going to go down when the market corrects, because that's our bill paying money. And then once we've protected the bill paying money, then we're solving for things like our medium term needs. Are we going to need a car, school for the kids, travel? And then we have our long term needs, which is our growth money. And so we're talking about the people that freaked out in 2008, moved all their money to cash and never did anything else.
Right.
If they had a plan where we had some of the money protected to pay the bills, some of the money set aside for emergencies in cash, so we keep some of that cash for emergencies, then now we're talking about stock market investments, and we've got some conservative portfolios that are designed for the medium term and then more aggressive portfolios for the long term. And Tony, we get a lot of feedback from people when they see this construction that we do. It's like, oh, well, that just makes sense. Mm-hmm. So I'm protected in terms of how to pay the bills, but I've got plenty of growth opportunity when things are going well. Because another thing, kind of the flip side of those folks keeping all their money in cash, some people want to keep the pedal to the metal, and they want to be too aggressive.
And that's one of the things that we really highlight and illustrate in the course that we teach, because there are some people that, well, most people are taking way more risk than they even know they are. And at a time in their life cycle that might be not in their best interest, especially with everything. We show that in the course, an illustrative example of real market returns and what happens to people when they're doing it kind of in a more risky way. They've got a lot of exposure to the stock market. They need to use their money to live on. What happens when those kind of things meet?
If you're pulling money out and you take a 30, 40, 50% hit and you're living on 4 or 5% of your life savings, we go through the math around how that could be a disaster.
Right.
And when we get feedback from the course, that's one of the main things that we hear people say.
Yep.
When you showed us that sequence of returns risk and what happens if we go through a correction while we're pulling money out, that was really enlightening. So, for you, our listener, we can help you, but you do have to take action. And so there's a handful of things that I would encourage you to do. One is to call or text us or go to our website and request a visit. And we will sit down with you in person, and we gather all the information that we need to help you figure out where you are, and then we do an analysis of your current situation, and we tell you all the good stuff, and then we give you all the things that need to be resolved, and it's very specific to you. The other thing is to sign up for our course. So a lot of times, Tony, people will sign up for the course, and they come to the course, and we go through all the stuff we go through, and then they a lot of times from there they'll come see us. But I really think the course is a high level thing that just talks about how to do these things in general. The visit is a personal one-on-one where we're doing a free analysis of everything that's going on. So I would really encourage you to call or text 205-988-0006. That's 205-988-0006, 205-988-0006. Call or text us. Get on our calendar. We'll sit down with you personally and help you figure all this out, and also sign up for the course. I think you will find those two things to be some of the best time spent in terms of preparing for your retirement. We'll be back in just a minute. We'll keep talking about Hindsight's 2020.
Sign up for a complimentary consultation with Tad and Tony. That's AskFreedomFinancial.com